Book of Iya, A Spiritual Odyssey Beyond the Visible. Author's Note.
Hello. For once, instead of AI, you are going to get my I alone, intelligence, my real voice. Instead of writing something, I'm going to talk to you directly. The recording might be a bit noisy because my life is full of life. And I have dogs around me, so sometimes you might hear one moving But I'm not going to go into the whim of having the perfect silence to record something. I want to work with you about the book of Iya, to pronounce correctly. The book of Iya. What is the book of Iya? I know maybe you don't pronounce it like this as you're English. And I know that some people complain about my accent when I speak English. I'm sure you can make do with that, at least for just this speech. When I started to give the complete story of the discovery of the book of Iya, I evolved in this writing. At one point, I just wanted to tell the tale of the story. And then I realized, no, I'm sure we can organize something to allow the people to discover the complete book of Iya. That it is not only a story for you, but a complete investment, if you want, in the adventure. Through that, I realized that my story was too quick. What does it mean? It is that I was going to the discovery of the book of Iya too quickly, and instead for you a story. A long time ago, I used to read Carlos Castaneda, that was telling the story of initiation with Don Juan Matus, and I was very interested in that. And his fourth book, that was in reality his fifth book, but doesn't matter, was Tales of Power. On the back cover, it was written, why did I call that Tales of Power? Because for you, there will stay only tales. It's, you will not have access to this power. There's only something that is given to you, but it's not part of an adventure. And I realized that I was developing more or less the same. I shouldn't present something that is going to be something that is not accessible to you. You might see, understand the third part like a detour. In fact, no, it's a shortcut. In the elaboration of this book, I realized that I can go much further, that I can give a complete teaching, a complete adventure that will allow you to grow a lot and to discover things that you cannot even imagine today. That's why I decided to create this third part. You have different possibilities in front of this third part. For instance, myself, when I read Tales of Power from Carlos Castaneda, I had already behind me years of experience in a Shaolin temple with meditation and things that were practiced in a Shaolin temple. They go very, very far. Therefore, when I read Tales of Power, they were not tales of power for me. Carlos Castaneda used drugs, mushrooms, blah, 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 ceremonies to experiment some different states of mind, of consciousness. For me, I had exactly the same thing. Not with the drugs. I never took any kind of drug and all these protocols because I was not into shamanism, but Shaolin and martial arts. But through the meditation, the concentration on all of this, and because I had years and years when I read that, I had already maybe 25 years of martial arts and years of life in a Shaolin temple, years of yoga, intense yoga. So therefore, all of this, when I read that, I realized for me they are not tales of power. There are experimentation of knowledge, of power, that I know perfectly well through a different way. So, for me, when I read Carlos Castaneda, it helped me to go higher because it went perfectly well in my evolution. So therefore, I would tell you, if you are extremely committed into things, that you are very high level, then you could jump the third part and go directly to the fourth part. Nevertheless, pay attention. Because in this modern society, you have the tendency to believe that a low level is a very high level. It's not because you did 4 workshops of 3 days and that you read 20 books very often full of new age that you have a super level. Even if you believe that you really have to work on humility. You have nothing to prove because no one will know what you did or didn't do with this book. It's really facing yourself, knowing yourself totally. If you have done, let's say, 10 workshops of 3 days, that makes 30 days. I had 10 hours a day for 3.5 years in the Shaolin Temple. Without mentioning 25 years of martial arts. That means, 4 hours of practice for about 20 years. At the beginning it was a bit softer, but at least. So if you have something like this, it could be into music, it could be into healing people, shamanism, I don't know what. Maybe it's not interesting for you to read the third part, because you might really experiment, not only read Tales of Power, experiment the fourth part and higher. So that without losing time on the third part, the rest of the story is not only a tale, but really something that is giving you an evolution, something that will be part of your life, not only reading but experimenting the book of Iya. Really. If with a certain humility, you know that you have a certain knowledge, a good level, but maybe not so high either. Like you have been working, you read, you discovered some stuff in your life, in your evolution, but nevertheless you are not into illumination and all of this, then you should read the third part. And as I did with Carlos Castaneda, you should try to draw a parallel. Here, I'm going to present the initiation of Béatrice. That is, as you already saw in the second part, at the beginning of this workshop that is very much linked after that to the discovery of the book of Iya. And in fact, the end of the third part will be, again, the last chapter of the second part. But you're going now to experiment all the path of Béatrice to have the level that she has in this workshop. It is a story through meditation, martial arts, Tai Chi, and things like this, gymnastic. Maybe you're into music, into healing, into essential oils, art of any kind. And you can draw a parallel. I mean, when I read Carlos Castaneda, I have nothing to do with shamanism, but nevertheless in martial arts, at one point we meditate in the forest to be in contact with some entities because of the practice of martial arts, of concentration. So it's very different, but at one point we can really do things, apply. When I read Carlos Castaneda, in spite of a very high level, I created a parallel. I read some chapters, and after that, I was going to the forest here or there to control some entities, to feel, and to go a little bit more into something that I could apply, that I already apply in the Shaolin temples, that I could apply more, using a parallel of the story between his story and my story. I didn't jump directly. I said, oh, that's a good exercise. Oh, that's a good idea. So the story of Béatrice, that is discovering something. If you draw a parallel with what you practice, it could be super interesting. And it will allow you, now I'm not going to tell you do this exercise or that. You have to know yourself. I don't know your story. I don't know who you are. But you have to see when you discover something to say, oh yeah, that I really did. Very differently, by practicing music, by healing, okay. But you could say, yeah, that repeating all the time, I know that already done. Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, really. And some of the things, that's clever. And maybe for some chapters, as I did with Carlos Castaneda, you stop and you practice your exercises with your violin, with your practice, with the essential oils. You practice for 2 weeks, a fortnight on this or that. And after that, you go on. So you evolve in parallel with Béatrice, which means that at one point, when things are really happening, in the 4th chapter, you can go on doing some exercises, and when we reach the book of Iya, it's becoming, you're totally ready to meet this book and to learn from it and to evolve a lot into power, into knowledge, into responsibilities, and so on. To become a power to help this world to evolve. Because it is about time. I don't know if you have noticed, but if we don't move very quickly, it's not very cool, the evolution on this planet. Not at all. We need people who know, who dare doing. Warriors of peace. Really. We don't go for the war, but nevertheless, we have to push away the destruction and chaos of this society to go into something of evolution, of love, of peace. You have been learning Reiki, you have been learning music, you have been learning painting, you have been learning organic farming, essential oils, homeopathy, and after that, you just don't only copy. You try to evolve, you try to bring new things. All of us, we must evolve so much that we are able to change, transform this society. Because otherwise, this society will transform us into corpses. Walking Dead, zombies, I don't know, but it's not going to be very positive. At least slaves, totally obedient and submitted. So we must break that. And for that, we are warriors. I don't say that you have to fight physically. And you will see that the initiation of martial arts it was a mystical initiation. It's not how to break the people, even if in some lessons it's the art of fighting. But it's not the goal. We don't focus on that. There's something much higher. If you have a parallel of evolution, then the third part is in 2 parts. You have the real story of Béatrice and you have the Universal Encyclopedia of Martial Arts. If you don't practice martial arts, or yoga, or Tai Chi, or Qigong, Tuishu, then this part is totally useless to you. If you are a musician, if you are... the Universal Encyclopedia is really adapted for those who are really working with the body. So, if you don't have something with the body, you have the right to read this part, of course, but it will stay something theoretical. It's like somebody who doesn't play music to read something of theory about the music and blah, blah. It will bring nothing to a non-musician, just knowledge, but nothing intense. You can if you want. If, in addition, you practice physically, you use your body, then the encyclopedia of martial arts will talk to you. Maybe you're into dancing, yoga, martial arts, and anything that is existing today that could be intense. And in that case, as we'll have also schemas and little films to explain, that can be talking to you directly. If you are not at all into the body, then this part is totally useless. And if you are already super advanced, then the complete third part could be useless.
Introduction. Letter to my masters, former colleagues at IKDS, and former students. To my masters, first and foremost, I wish to express my profound gratitude and respect to those who have been my guides, my sources of inspiration, and the foundation of my journey. Through this letter, I wish to honor
Egami Shigeru,
founder of
Karate Do Shotokai,
a man of exceptional inspiration whose martial research transformed the very essence of karate.
これから総統官整形型のうち対局初段二段三段は行う。
Harada Mitsusuke,
One of the pillars of Karate Do Shotokai's development,
Murakami Tetsuji,
an extraordinary master who profoundly influenced my practice and journey in this art. William Schneider, founder of AKSER, whose teachings provided a unique perspective on Karate Do Shotokai. Bernard Monneret, head of the CLAM, Centre Lyonnais des Arts Martiaux, a man of wisdom and humility whose teachings on harmony and unity in martial arts deeply shaped my understanding. Christian Tissier, National Technical Director of Aikido in France, a highly influential leader in this art. Min Nguyen, a master of perceiving the invisible. I also want to honor Adam Prince, my colleague, brother and friend, with whom I founded IKDS. This exceptional man embodies courage, honesty, and dignity. Despite our different paths, Adam has remained true to the essence of combat, energy, and spirituality that form the heart of this discipline. To my former colleagues at IKDS and former students, each of you has, in one way or another, enriched my understanding and practice of Karate Do Shotokai. Yet, it is also time to confront certain truths. Master Egami Shigeru, whom we all revere, was a man whose martial journey was as much spiritual as it was energetic. His physical condition, marked by illness, led him to explore dimensions of energy and fluidity far beyond physical limits. His near-death experience, NDE, after 10 minutes in a coma, was a revelation that transformed his approach, steering him toward a deeper understanding of the energetic path. However, this vision has been betrayed by many of you. You have abandoned the quest for energy and spirituality, plunging instead into a practice that is astral, weak, and devoid of substance. Karate Do Shotokai, which should radiate energy and fluidity, has become a caricature. What should have been a vibrant art, a way of life, is now ridiculed by those practicing competitive karate. They see in your movements a weak, incoherent dance, lacking all energetic or spiritual depth. my journey and vision, I have devoted my life to developing Karate Do Shotokai clubs in places such as Charvieux, Tignieux, La Tour du Pin, Crémieux, Valence, Aubenas, Privas, Les Olières in the Eyrieux Valley, Bron, Lyon, and even the small village of Ainvaux in Meurthe-et-Moselle. With the help of Adam Prince, I co-founded IKDS, a structure aimed at preserving the legacy of Masters Egami and Murakami while pursuing sincere and profound research. Yet, your rejections and criticisms have followed me. When I began to focus on energy and spirituality within Karate Do Shotokai, many of you turned your backs on me. However, to reject both competition and the quest for energy is to condemn Karate Do Shotokai to arrogance and emptiness. This rejection of the essential has turned this discipline into a dead language, akin to Esperanto, devoid of soul and spirit, reduced to a mere empty tool. Beyond Shotokai. For me, Karate Do Shotokai was never confined to its traditional forms. I have developed it through climbing, swimming, meditation, Tai Chi Chuan, gymnastics, and even somersaults. Every movement was a quest to go further, to aim higher, and to ultimately touch a divine, cosmic dimension as taught by Lao Tzu. This path allowed me to transcend the limits of my own body, even when blindness struck me. By developing echolocation, I learned to see with sound, like a dolphin, continuing my inner and martial journey.
Oh. You see there, Mia?
Yeah.
Hammer. Here we have that.
A tribute to Adam Prince. I wish to pay tribute to my brother Adam Prince, the only one who understood that my energetic and spiritual quest never excluded combat. Adam is an extraordinary fighter, a man of heart and honor, who has always maintained the balance between energy and physical strength. Despite our differences, we have always shared a common path, the path of truth. Through this letter and this work, I present to you the true path of Karate Do Shotokai, a path that transcends the dojo, rises above arrogance, and ascends toward a genuine energetic and spiritual quest. To those who have rejected, insulted, or scorned me, understand that this path of energy is a path of life, one that even transcends death. Whether you like it or not, I will continue to walk this path, to practice, to grow, and to pass on this art in its purest form. To my masters, former colleagues, former students, and those who will discover this work, may you understand that there is no life without energy, no art without soul, and no true path without transcendence. Structure and philosophy of the book. This book has been carefully structured to convey the true essence of Karate Do Shotokai, a martial art that transcends mere techniques to become a quest for energy, fluidity, and transcendence. The book is divided into two distinct yet complementary parts, each offering a unique perspective on this art. Part 1. Béatrice's journey of initiation. This section narrates the inspiring story of one of my students, Béatrice, who discovered and embraced the profound teachings of Karate Do Shotokai in her life. Through her journey, you will delve into a vivid and emotional narrative that embodies the philosophy and challenges of this art. This historical account goes beyond techniques or anecdotes, illustrating how Karate Do Shotokai can transform an entire life by blending physical discipline, spiritual energy, and inner exploration. Part 2. Universal Encyclopedia of Karate Do Shotokai. This section takes an encyclopedic approach, consolidating essential knowledge for practitioners and seekers of truth. It delves into fundamental concepts, techniques, and philosophical principles that define this martial art. You will find invaluable insights into notions such as
入身、
the art of anticipation,
線の線、
the strategy of initiative,
乱れ、
harmony in chaos, and
塾見て。
soft combat. These elements will guide you in fully integrating the spirit of Karate Do Shotokai into your practice, whether in a dojo or in daily life. Philosophy, challenge, and the quest for energy. Karate Do Shotokai is not just a physical discipline, it is a way of life. To progress, one needs a true challenge, whether through competition or the pursuit of energy and spiritual depth. Without this rigor, the practice risks becoming a weak and superficial astral dance, justified by arrogance and subjective interpretations. Every punch, oitsuki, every kick, maigeri, every movement must be an experience of total and absolute commitment. The quest does not end with mastering the muscles. It must extend beyond, reaching the very essence of chi, the vital energy. By committing to this search, you transcend your physical body and achieve a deeper understanding of life itself. When your practice is intense, sincere, and accomplished, your life becomes an extraordinary adventure, and even your death is transformed. Death, in this perspective, is not an end, but a beginning, a passage toward progression that surpasses the limits of the body. The essence of chi and energy continues beyond the beat of your heart, beyond your breath, to join the waves of life vibrating throughout the universe. The legacy of the small forest. Karate Do Shotokai, rooted in the spiritual heritage of the small forest, Shaolin in Chinese, Shorin-ryu in Japanese, embodies this spirit of fluidity and energy. Even in its name, Shotokan and Shotokai, the school of the pine trees swaying in the wind, this art reflects harmony between movement, breath, and energy. It is not about mere gestures, but about creating an energetic field that radiates around you, nourished by the balance of the three tantians, the body, the heart, and the mind. Practicing in this spirit honors not only the martial tradition, but also a transcendent quest for life that connects the individual to the universe. This requires discipline, humility, and a constant pursuit of fluidity, stability, and strength. Conclusion: a path to explore. This book is an invitation to discover or rediscover the true spirit of Karate Do Shotokai. Whether you are an experienced practitioner or a curious beginner, this work offers you the keys to go beyond physical limits, to reach energy and transcendence, and to integrate these principles into your daily life. May you understand that Karate Do Shotokai is not merely a martial art, but an art of living, an art of dying, and an art of rebirth in every moment. Part 3. The Initiation of Béatrice. Introduction. In this third part, I invite you to discover a new chapter in this adventure, an intimate and unique interlude, the initiation of Béatrice. This will be an immersion into a process of transformation, an inner journey where Béatrice, still a novice in the mystical arts, will grow and refine her perception to eventually become a solid and illuminated presence in this world of energy that you have already begun to explore. Throughout the first and second parts, you may have witnessed various teachings, mystical experiences, and extraordinary discoveries that have guided me, sometimes humbly, sometimes with intensity. Béatrice, however, is still far from these experiences. When I first met her, there was no magic, no revelation. She was simply, like many, standing at the threshold of a path, unaware of its destination. The path that you will travel alongside Béatrice will lead us both to the Itre retreat, recounted in the fourth part. But before that, it is important to revisit the foundations of her initiation, the small steps, the early trials, and those nearly invisible moments when, without even realizing it, Béatrice begins to discover another dimension of herself and the universe. You may notice in this part certain references to experiences and teachings already discussed in other sections. These links are intentional, as each lesson I offer to Béatrice is rooted in a shared ground of experiences. It is a gradual process of evolution, filled with resonances and echoes, which will guide her, step by step, toward a deep understanding that she can genuinely apply and integrate. Béatrice's initiation begins slowly, without haste. Her journey, like that of each of us, is tinged with doubts, fears, inner struggles, but also moments of wonder. We start here from what seems ordinary to advance, step by step, toward the extraordinary. Each chapter will reveal a stage of her initiation, a leap into the unknown, an encounter with herself, and sometimes with energies she never imagined she could perceive. As you read this third part, you will see that Béatrice's initiation mirrors a universal inner adventure. She asks simple questions, encounters human obstacles, experiences deep emotions, and perhaps in her you will find a part of yourself, a reflection of your own experiences. This initiation will not be a fairy tale, but a path of tangible and applicable realizations. For true initiation is not just about marveling at magic. It lies in integrating these experiences into the core of our daily reality, into our mind, body, and soul. I hope this third part brings you a deeper, more embodied understanding, closer to your own lives and personal quests. It is a journey toward authenticity, a path that, beginning with the ordinary, will lead you, like Béatrice, toward a fabulous and unforgettable evolution, culminating in the heart of the Itre retreat. And so, here we are at the beginning of Béatrice's initiation. Thank you for your enthusiastic appreciation. Chapter 1. I was living then in Saint-Fortuna, in Ardèche, in the valley of the Eyrieux. It was a secluded place of mountains and forests, where the wind's breath seemed to carry the souls of the ancients. That day, at dusk, I felt the urge to go running, to feel the uneven ground under my feet and to let myself be carried by the rhythm of my breathing. My dog, Rainbow, trotted alongside me, faithful and wild, a flash of freedom in the forest shadows. We climbed the hidden paths above Saint-Fortuna, toward the high ridges from which one could see the shepherds' small houses, nestled like secrets between the trees. Midway up, as I crossed a steeper trail, Rainbow made a sudden swerve. Seized by an instinct I couldn't sense, he leapt aside, throwing me off balance mid-stride. I fell, and with an Aikido reflex, I rolled on the ground to soften the impact, but a large, unavoidable stone stopped me short. Pain pierced the fog of my breath, and I lay there for a moment, listening to the whisper of the leaves and the calming beats of my heart. Rainbow, loyal, stayed close, looking a bit sheepish, but ready to chomp on the snacks I'd brought, now scattered around us. I struggled to catch my breath, gently stretching my sore back, when a soft voice rose behind me.
"Do you need help?"
asked a young woman who'd approached without me noticing. She knelt down, picked up a few snacks, and turned to me with a smile full of kindness. I thanked her, a bit surprised, and she began to massage my back with hesitant but caring gestures.
I've actually been watching you for a long time.
She said timidly.
I often see you running in the forest, climbing the cliffs, playing in the river. You are like a tiger in these mountains. I really admire everything you do.
I smiled, touched by her words, but wanting to convey something beyond admiration. Admiration is just a projection, I replied. What matters is feeling motivated, wanting to explore, to discover oneself. She blushed, stammering a bit.
My name is Béatrice.
She finally said, almost embarrassed. Nice to meet you, Béatrice. I'm Iggy, and please feel free to use tu with me. She nodded, seeming to gather her courage.
I think my life is pathetic. I don't do anything well. And there are aspects of my life I'm really ashamed of.
I looked at her, intrigued. What are you ashamed of, Bea? She hesitated, glancing left and right, as if to make sure no one else could hear.
I'm different. Let's say I have tastes that aren't always well understood, and to be honest, I'm not interested in men.
I nodded, calm. Well, that's no problem. It's your life, your choices. She shook her head.
You don't understand.
She murmured.
I'm always judged for it. People look at me as if I'm broken, and on top of that, I have such a damaged back, a scoliosis with lordosis that limits me in everything. My body betrays me. It's weak.
I gently interrupted her. It's not your body that's weak, Bea, but maybe the way you've been taught to perceive it. She looked at me, bewildered, as I continued. Come practice with me. When you're in Ardèche, you won't have to pay anything. My realm is here, and I'd be happy to teach you some exercises, whether it's yoga, breathing, or deeper movements. She hesitated, visibly moved but fearful.
But my back, I can't.
I smiled, with both gentleness and firmness. Let me be the judge of what your body can do. I'm an osteopath and psychologist. We could work together, not only on your body, but also on how you see yourself. She held back a sob, tears welling in her eyes.
Do you really think I can change?
I looked at her with compassion and conviction. Every person has a beauty and a strength within them, just waiting to be revealed. You know, when I got this dog, his name was Rambo, like Stallone's character. A name meant to evoke violence, brute strength. But I didn't like what it represented, so I decided to call him Rainbow, like the rainbow. That simple name change transformed his destiny. He became a gentle, loving companion who cherishes peace and nature. She smiled faintly, gradually understanding the depth of the metaphor. Maybe you too, Bea, could transform your destiny, choose a different path, let go of the image imposed by others that tells you you're broken or shameful. You could discover your own light, the one that's already within you. Bea nodded slowly, her face filled with emotion.
Thank you,
She murmured.
It's like a fairy tale, the Greek god you are, inviting me to visit Olympus.
Let's not exaggerate, I said with a smile. But it's true that in samurai philosophy, to serve is to elevate oneself. In offering you my help, I am also growing. So tomorrow, or the day after, come to the Chateau of Saint-Fortunat. She opened her eyes wide with surprise.
You live in a chateau?
Just part of it, nothing grand. An old building, a bit run down, but it has a certain charm. She laughed softly, and while petting Rainbow, she thanked me one last time.
Goodbye, Iggy,
She said, with a sincere smile.
and thank you, Rainbow, for making him fall.
she added with a laugh. She walked away, and I stood up, ready to resume my run, the pain in my back soothed by this unexpected encounter. In Bea's eyes, I had seen a promise, a spark of hope, that of a soul who might, with a bit of light, one day move from an inner Rambo to a rainbow. Chapter 2. Specificity or Pathology. It is around 3 p.m. when there's a knock at the door. Opening it, I find Béatrice, who has clearly made an effort with her appearance. Her beauty, subtle and unconventional, is more evident, though I sense she could go further in embracing her true beauty. Fabienne, standing beside me, observes Béatrice with her characteristic coldness. She doesn't know that the young woman at our door has no interest in men, preferring women instead. Fabienne is naturally jealous and suspicious, a facet of her Italian temperament that she struggles to control. I suggest to Béatrice that we have a coffee outside under the Ardèche sun. She cheerfully agrees and settles down with a book while I prepare the drinks. Shortly after, we're seated together at a table, accompanied by the sound of crickets, even though it's only May. When she asks for milk in her coffee, I offer her coconut milk, explaining that we are vegans. Surprised but curious, she agrees. I sense she's ready to hear about the conference in Barcelona, a heated debate about homosexuality. With a mix of curiosity and apprehension, Béatrice tilts her head, listening attentively. This debate, I tell her, was a clash of two radically different views on sexuality. At the Spanish school where I was studying, many students were of Arab or African descent, and their perspectives on homosexuality were laden with harsh judgments. When the school director proposed a debate to encourage open-mindedness, opposition erupted with incredible verbal violence. The opening moments of the discussion were an outpouring of anger and rejection. As a psychologist, I chose to take a step back, offering a rational, unbiased framework. Instead of engaging in a fruitless argument, I explained an essential distinction to them, that between specificity and pathology. I elaborated to the audience that specificities are personal passions or inclinations that bring joy and a sense of belonging, like philately or playing a sport. When shared with others, these specificities become sources of satisfaction and positive connections. Conversely, a specificity can turn pathological when it becomes an obsession, leading to suffering and isolation. I paused to let these ideas settle before continuing. By definition, homosexuality is a specificity, an orientation that connects people in kindness and respect. It doesn't lead to hatred or violence. Homophobia, on the other hand, the hatred and rejection, is pathological. It causes suffering and undermines individual and collective well-being. The audience turned their incredulous and angry gazes toward me. Yet, beyond their emotional reactions, the distinction remained irrefutable. Homophobia often stems from trauma, social conditioning, or unconscious fears, factors that drive us to reject what feels foreign. There is no such thing as being for or against homosexuality, I explained. Those are merely subjective opinions. In psychology, we seek to study objective and intersubjective realities. For example, a homosexual woman may feel exclusively attracted to women, but this doesn't imply that men are uninteresting or inferior. It's a subjective reality unique to each individual. Gradually, the participants began to grasp this distinction, and their once violent statements lost intensity. Silence fell over the room. As Béatrice listened to my account, she seemed unburdened. Her timid yet sincere smile reflected a growing sense of peace. After sharing this story, I suggested Béatrice explore a new path of transformation, both physical and mental. I invited her to a session of body sculpting to examine her spine and posture. identifying opportunities for strengthening and rebalancing. Her pronounced lordotic scoliosis, while marked, could be mitigated with appropriate training, supported by strong musculature. I explained how building a robust body would also help her learn to love herself and regain inner confidence. Bea, I told her, with lean, well-developed muscles, you could not only enhance your physical appearance, but also feel a newfound freedom in your movements. This freedom, this beauty, will emerge from the love you cultivate for yourself. Deeply moved, Béatrice listened as I described the psychological impact of self-love, how it serves as a shield against external judgments, especially from those who reject what they cannot understand. I also explained the dynamics of group psychology and the human instinct for conformity. In more conservative settings, like the villages of Ardèche, traditions and collective norms exert immense pressure. To be different often means facing exclusion, a rejection that can lead to self-criticism or even self-destruction. Bea, the key for you is to find peace within yourself and no longer allow external criticisms to affect you. I encouraged her to become a peaceful, fulfilled person, so radiant that she would attract kindred spirits and perhaps even companions. Through this transformation, she could also become a source of support for others seeking their own paths. Together, we're building a pyramid of light, Bea. By learning to love and respect yourself, you create positive energy that radiates outward. Every person who frees themselves inspires another to do the same. I suggested calling her Bea to emphasize the beatitude, the inner light she was about to discover within herself. By pronouncing her name, I wanted her to feel the peace and acceptance she so fully deserved. As I finished explaining, Béatrice seemed deep in thought, absorbed by the ideas she had just heard. After a long silence, she looked at me, her eyes shining with emotion and gratitude.
There's no shame,
she murmured, as if convincing herself.
I am who I am, and I've decided to become beautiful and radiant, just as you see me.
She paused, took a deep breath, and then, with a gentleness that revealed her vulnerability, she moved closer to me and asked for a hug. I accepted without hesitation. She nestled into me, resting her head on my shoulder, and I felt the weight of her doubts slowly lifting. In a determined whisper, she said,
I'll get there. I'll become the person you see now, even if I can't see her yet. I promise you, I'll be a student you'll be proud of.
Her words were filled with promises and trust, and in that embrace, I felt the emergence of a stronger Bea, a woman ready to move forward, freed from her fears and doubts, certain that she is not alone.